The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my tickets!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Hello, good evening, or good afternoon. I guess that's when we're recording this. And welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna. And joining me is my always pleasant boss, Mr. Mark Radulich. Mark, do you know what time it is?
Time to get ill? Is it time to murder it? What do you set me up for here?
It's time to talk about one of our favorite shows. In fact, do you know what we were doing exactly 1 year ago today?
What were we doing exactly 1 year ago today, Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations?
Talking about this show's second season. Swear to God, my Facebook memories popped up. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We are talking Only Murders in the Building season 3. This is one of our favorite shows. Mark and I have reviewed every season that has come out. We love it. And apparently now we are on a yearly tradition. So let's see.
I remember that show because I remember talking about like fathers and daughters and relationships. And then I got a phone call from a girl I was dating at the time who for the next hour harangued me about leaving my now ex-wife. So yes, that show will forever be burned in my brain now that you mention it.
Yeah, pretty much. So let's see if when season 4 comes out, if we also review on October 19th. Let's see if we can make this a tradition.
Well, again, now it's a game. Now I have to.
All right. Yes. Only Murders in the Building, a Hulu comedy drama mystery thriller starring Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez, brought to us by Rhode Island Avenue Productions, Another Hoffman Story Productions, 40 Share Productions, and 20th Century Television, airing on Hulu. This has been one of our favorite shows for ages. It is so much fun. We love talking about it. And yes, we are talking season 3, which finds our trio once again having to solve a murder, this time of an Avenger.
Yes, they killed Ant-Man.
They killed Ant-Man. They killed my Kansas City native Paul Rudd. How could they?
Can we just talk about that for a moment? How like Paul Rudd is this sort of affable idiot kind of guy. You know, a lot of his parts are I'm just the everyman. I'm average guy. You know, a lot of men can probably see themselves in Paul Rudd. And
they
then
just wish they aged as well as he does.
Yeah, really, he's a fucking elf.
Yeah, apparently he is using that serum that that one actress was hawking.
Yes, but it's amazing to see him. What I like about the TV shows that I tend to talk about, the kind of stuff that I will watch, even if I'm not doing a podcast on it, is something where an actor steps out of their comfort zone and really stretches and gives a performance outside of what we know them for. And this is not an easily identifiable Paul Rudd. As men, we would not look at that character and go, "Oh yeah, I see myself in him." Maybe like bits and pieces of it, but especially the more toxic male parts of it of his character. But as the affable, everyday, relatable guy in this role, he was like, he was super narcissistic and toxic, and I was like, wow, that's really different for him. And I loved him in this role. Like, it's fun to see an actor stretch and do something you've never seen them do before. And then you go, holy crap, he actually has range. And I don't want this to become the siren song of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, but it is amazing what Marvel actors can do outside of Marvel.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, he has played other roles. I think my
Hmm.
favorite one that he's played that isn't the straight everyman is Our Idiot Brother. But that one always lingers for me because my family saw it because my mother and her sister, when they saw the trailer, they have a younger brother, my Uncle Joe,
Hmm.
who I love my uncle to death, but yeah, they kind of joke he's the baby of the family, and they love making fun of him. So when they saw the trailer for that, they're like, "Oh my god, it's Joe!"
You're talking about like why we talk about this show. It's one of the few. That's why it sticks out in my mind. It's one of the few that made the post social cut because there's
Mhm.
just some stuff I swore I was never going to do again. Um, some of the things with you, like like we never went back and did Cuphead. We stopped doing Animaniacs, things like that. But this one I will continue to do because even if it doesn't like thematically give you a lot to talk about, there's not a lot. This is not a David Simon show. Um, I still really like it. And it's funny, speaking of stepping out of your comfort zone, I don't watch a lot of mystery television. I don't watch a lot of whodunits. If there's a drug dealer on a corner dealing crack, sure. But a straight up mystery, murder mystery, um, I don't watch a lot of that on TV. And so this one really grabbed me, and it's worth spending some time talking about, even if it's not the deepest of deep shows that I tend to watch, says the guy who's in the last reviewed Legends of Vox Machina.
Yeah. Sorry, just a second. Cleo! They're doing construction on the hill outside our house. Somebody sees the construction men, and she is determined to let us all know about it. Sorry about the background noise. But yeah, this is a show that we actually first heard about when it was the what was it, D Plus Day
Yeah.
years ago. You asked me to watch it and take notes. This
Mhm.
for context, this was the year that Kevin Feige announced they were not replacing Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. It was in the
Yeah.
same public event. But yeah, you asked me to take notes, and I saw that this show was coming, and it said it was from the minds of Steve Martin. It was starring him, Martin Short, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And not
Right.
just because I, of course, adore the movie Three Amigos, so I know these two actors have incredible chemistry. So yeah, got into it, and it's been one of our It's been
Keep
one of
going.
our favorites for ages, and you're right. This is one of the few shows that you and I watch where it's a case of if we didn't have this podcast, we'd still watch this show. We
Yeah.
love it that much.
This would be on my list of. There's a show I watch called Claws. I've never talked about it with anybody. I don't even really discuss that I watch the show, but it's one of those where I like it. It's a crime show, but it's got Nietzsche Nash in it, and it takes place in South Florida. There's a lot of like relatable, identifiable things about the show that appeal to me. And I've never once said, "Does anyone want to talk about Claws with me?" No, who gives a fuck? I just sometimes I just watch stuff because I enjoy it. And yeah, there was a point where we were just kind of reviewing everything. So this was in the everything pile. And it survived, one, because you're easy to schedule during the day with, but also because I genuinely like talking about this show. I grew up a Steve Martin fan. I think
Sure.
I think we talked about this on the last podcast. Because I think this is what I cut for TikTok. I grew up watching his movies, all of me, The Jerk, The Man with Two Brains, Three Amigos, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not on my Mount Rushmore of comics. In fact, I'm somewhat familiar with his stand-up, which we talked about last time, but that's not what drew me to Steve Martin. He was one of the Titan comic actors of the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was a draw back when those things existed.
He
And
was one of the Titan comic actors of the 80s who didn't get his start on Saturday Night Live.
Yes, yeah, he came from the stage. He was almost like a prop comic, and he was just sort of known for, wasn't quite Sam Kinison, but he was known for just being loud and yelling at the audience and just kind of being an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because he was another one of these actors who his comic career starts out, he's, like I said, he's an asshole. He's engaging with the audience. He's the jerk. And that's like half of his movies is something along those lines. And then he does Father of the Bride. And most people now, when they think about Steve Martin, that's what they think about. Oh, he's the Father of the Bride guy. He's
To the point that they dropped a reference to that in the penultimate episode this season.
Yeah, they made a gag out of it. And then you have Martin Short. You know, Martin Short was in Inner Space. Martin Short, like we talked about the last time, like we know him as Ed Grimley, but he also had a halfway decent 80s comedy movie acting career. What I love about these two in this show is clearly they've still got comedic chops, but especially this season, Martin Short's dramatic acting, top tier. Like
Absolutely. This was his signature season.
Yeah, I would say the last two seasons focus more. Like the first season, I think focused a lot on Selena Gomez. Second season focused a lot on Steve Martin. This one focuses the most on Martin Short. And I'll tell you, it's probably the best season of the three so far, in my opinion, because I think he's the most interesting character of the three. Not that Selena Gomez's character isn't interesting. She gives a very flat, deadpan performance, and which is good because she has to offset between. Yeah, she has to offset between these two nutcases. Mm-hmm. And so you need somebody to be you need someone to look deadpan at the camera and go, well, that just happened. Because you've got, Ed Grimley and the jerk kind of dancing circles around you. On the other hand, and so I see the dramatic need for it, the craft need for it, but it's also the least interesting for me to watch. Her first season, she's sort of like coming into her own. She's sort of figuring out who she is as a person. There was a lot of focus on her, but it kind of reminded me of The Simpsons, where it was like the first couple of seasons of The Simpsons, they think that Bart is the star. And so everything is sort of Bart centric. And then they realize, oh no, Homer's the funny one. And to draw the equivalency, Martin Short is the Homer of this show. Like, he's the best. He's so funny, but he also has, I think, the most dramatic depth. Steve Martin, unfortunately, I think gets shortchanged, at least his character does, because he's a great actor. But I kind of feel like he's in a very small box. They're like, do the thing in the box, and that's all we need you for. And it's awesome, but it's also very limiting. Martin Short, I think, has the most emotional and thematic range of the three characters.
Absolutely. Because, he is given, I would say, his first real character arc in this. Yeah. Obviously, all three of these main characters have had to go through things in all three seasons, but this is the biggest step for him. Of course, he plays Oliver Putnam, a has-been Broadway director, and we start off season 3 with him finally getting a chance to reclaim his glory and get to direct a new show on Broadway called Death Rattle. And of course we have Ben Gilroy, I can't remember.
Keep going. I'll just yell it at you.
Thank you.
Glenroy.
More or less washed up 90s superhero actor.
Yeah, he's kind of like Johnny Depp. He's like a cross between like Johnny Depp and, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr.
Pre-Marvel and pre-Pirates of the Caribbean.
Because in both cases, both Johnny Depp and Robert Downey Jr. had a falling off in their career, and they rebounded with big franchise movies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Ben is making his Broadway debut. He thinks that, this is going to help reinvent him and everything. And like we said, he's a narcissist. He's a jerk. He is still living in the glory days of when he was when he was Cobra.
Yes.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Although I was getting serious Manimal flashbacks every time they talked about that show.
Oh, like especially when they do the other thing that he was famous for, that Selena Gomez tapped into with whatever, where he's opposite this young girl. I think he's a cop in that one. Mm-hmm. All I could think about was, oh my God, they are so aping Johnny Depp in 21 Jump Street.
Oh yeah,
I was waiting for a flashback to him in that show, but he's dressed up like a cholo, the way fucking Johnny Depp was towards the end of that series.
Yeah. But as long as they kept the frosted tips.
Yes. Perfect.
God. How friggin' 90s were those things.
Quite.
But yes, Ben drops dead on opening night, only to miraculously come back to life.
Like you do, because no one ever dies.
Of course. Until later that night when someone pushes him down the elevator shaft. And this time, no, he's dead. So our trio of podcasters are on the case again. This season, however, we have them also dealing with some serious distractions. Steve Martin's character, Charles Hayden Savage, again, also a former big TV star. He's also getting his Broadway debut on with the show, and he's really concerned about it. You know, it's really up to his head. Oliver, of course, is freaking out because his lead actor has, just been murdered, and he's worried, is this the end of my Broadway comeback? And Selena Gomez's character Mabel is the only one saying, so do we have a freaking podcast or what?
Right.
So we're going to talk a little bit about each character. When we do the show, we don't do episode by episode because there's just so many times we can go, oh yeah, that was funny. Moving on.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about more with the character arcs, story moments, and also the introduction of our other big name celebrity guest for the season, the Queen of Hollywood herself, Meryl Streep.
So because we don't talk a lot about a Meryl Streep movie. You know, Meryl Streep does a picture. It's phenomenal. She gets an award. We tend to let it bypass us because nothing blew up in it. She wasn't wearing a tight-fitting costume. It wasn't from a comic book. So Meryl Streep doesn't get a lot of play on the Radulich Broadcasting Network because we are somewhat niche. And
we are lowest common denominator, zeitgeist, pop culture addicts.
We really are. But occasionally, like we tap into something that's a little off the beaten path, and I wanted to take a moment and just say, I don't know art, but I know what I like. And Meryl Streep, I don't think it gets said enough. I think it's almost like taken for granted now, but she's known for her dramatic performances. But Meryl Streep might be the greatest living actress of our age.
Oh, yeah.
I mean. I don't know, maybe it's just the circles I travel in, but I don't think it gets said enough. And I really wanted to make sure I hammered that home for everyone to hear. Like, if you're looking for, like, well, what is acting? Who's a great actress? Who is somebody I can look at and go, that's acting? It's Meryl Streep. Because it's easy, I think, to rest comfortably in the genre that is most suiting to you. So, sure, you see her in a drama, you see her in a prestige film, and of course she knocks it out of the park. Who doesn't? She's a very dependable hitter. It's interesting to see her in a dramedy, such as a murder mystery dramedy that is only murders in the building, because it's, it is part drama. It is also funny. There was a couple of big laugh out loud lines for me this season. Certain reactions people had. I know what the fuck a patter song is. I don't understand why that made me laugh as hard as it did, but I kind of did a spit take. I'm like,
well, I love that because the actress who plays that cop is also a Broadway trained actress. She's been in several shows, so that actually just sounded like a cape for the heart because she probably has done a few patter songs in
probably
her career.
Not known for her Broadway chops. But Meryl Streep playing, she plays a lot of her scenes opposite Martin Short. And the acting is in the subtlety because, again, it's easy to just recite lines. It's easy to take direction from your director. It's easy to stand on a green box and react to the pretend monster. It's not as easy to make the audience forget you're watching a television show, that you're watching a character interact with another character. And Meryl Streep excels at that. There is, in the natural course of human reaction, we have facial tics, we have movements, we have tendencies, and the actor's actor is able to do those things in their performance. They are able to create a reaction, create a scene, create a moment with another person, or in a solo performance, and it often goes unnoticed. But if you're watching with a keen eye, the way I was, because I knew I was going to have to talk about this, and so I was like, well, what do I look for things to talk about? And I'm really studying her, and I'm watching her sing when she in the I think the first episode or so, when she auditions for the musical for the play, and she does the monologue, and then she sings her song later on, and she has these great interactions with Paul Rudd's brother, the character who plays Dickie, and the stuff that she does opposite Martin Short, opposite Dickie, when she's alone, with her body, with her face. nothing. She doesn't act big. And I think it's easy to act big. That's usually what a lot of what's requested for you. Like, really go for it. Like, show something dynamic in front of the camera on stage. But sometimes you can create something big and impactful with very little movement at all. Sometimes less is more. And Meryl Streep excels in less is more because she's not bombastic, but she's also not twatty, which is the other thing. Like, I think of Brie Larson, especially because now they're doing a lot of promotion for the Marvels. And
about damn time. You think they would have started those ads a while ago?
Well, they keep having to recut the movie, to try to make it passable.
They keep having to recut the marketing budget.
It's like the pendulum either swings to you're bombastic or you're twatty, and like that's the only way to make yourself memorable as a female actress. Or you could just be awesome and be believable and be emotional and be in the moment. And that's a lot of Meryl Streep for me in this season. When she's talking to Martin Short and she's very much thinking like, I think they're looking at Dickie. I think Dickie might have killed Paul Rudd. And he's my son that I gave, spoilers, he's my son that I gave up for adoption, and he doesn't know that. And I've got all of this turmoil inside me. So there's this like giant mountain of subtext. And it's all there in the performance, and she doesn't talk about any of it. It's just she's talking to Martin Short. Martin Short suspects her of murder, and so there's that tension between them. But they also love each other. They're connected. Like Martin Short is so conflicted about what to do with her because it's like love is fleeting, and it often will fly away if you don't grab a hold of it and hold it. Facts can confirm, and but also I don't want to see an injustice happen. I don't want to be a part of an injustice. Someone got murdered. This is not a light thing. And if she did it, she needs to be punished for it. But I don't want to punish her because I love her. That's all in very few lines of dialogue, and it's all like in the body and in their faces that they're making. And it's just a wonderful interaction. I'm gonna take a breath so that you can weigh in here and talk. And I know I get accused of sort of just vomiting out things, and then I'm like, why don't people respond to me? I don't know. You said a podcast worth of shit in 20 minutes, so relax.
No, Meryl Streep's performance. Amazing. Meryl Streep's performance is one for the books. If she doesn't get an Emmy for would it be best guest appearance? I mean,
she's listed as a
special
guest, so maybe. But she needs something. She needs to be recognized for how wonderful she is. She is the high point of this season for me, besides Martin Short.
Absolutely. There's also something I think to be said about how small she plays the role. Her character, Loretta, is a Broadway newbie. Again, like other characters mentioned, this is her debut, but it's something she's always wanted. And she is very unsure of herself. She's around veterans and big name actors, and she's really worried about misstepping and screwing up her chance. You have a scene where Paul Rudd, freaking Ant-Man, who has come back from the hospital and he's trying to make amends with everyone, but when he gets to Loretta, he's got no amends to make with her, and he talks down to her. Right. And he was just like, you are still the weak link of this performance, and you are still a terrible actress. And she is terrified. She's quivering. She's just like, she doesn't know how to take this. There is something to be said about someone as big as Meryl Streep playing a part where she has to act that insecure and that scared.
And she's 100% believable. Like I said, I don't ever stop seeing Paul Rudd. Every time I look at him, I'm just like, Ant-Man's a dick. And I don't ever stop seeing Selena Gomez, and I don't ever really stop seeing Martin. I somewhat stop seeing Martin Short. I don't ever, in this season, I don't ever stop seeing Steve Martin. I stopped seeing Meryl Streep. I saw the character she was playing. That's pretty damn good.
Definitely. And we also get to hear her sing, which is good because Lord knows I'm never sitting through Mamma Mia again as long as I live.
You don't like Mamma Mia?
I hate ABBA.
Weird taste. And this says the death metal guy who listens to Cattle Decapitation.
Talking to the girl wearing arm warmers with green hair.
Yeah.
By the way, you like the new hair color?
Very nice. I've never seen rainbow before. Well done. And this
I didn't do it.
And this isn't even Pride Month.
Very true.
Mm.
So, but yes, let's go ahead and talk about some of our favorite moments from the season because I really want to talk about the White Room.
Oh, you know what? You kind of took the word down my
Guilty.
mouth. So let's just talk about the White Room. In
Yeah.
the White Room, with black curtains.
So I gotta set this up.
Yes.
My parents borrow my Hulu account. They keep saying they're gonna get their own, but I don't know when that's ever gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, and they watch Only Murders in the Building. It's one of the shows we all watch. We love talking about. My dad will not let up that I need to start watching Bear and Secession.
Yeah, I'm currently watching The Offer on Paramount Plus with my girlfriend Sarah. But we will often take breaks from it because we end up doing different things when we see each other. So we don't watch it consistently enough. We're almost all the way through it, or I fall asleep on it. One of the two. Let's say it's a bad show. I just am tired. Contrary to popular opinion, I eventually sleep. But the next show on the list is The Bear.
Yeah, my dad and I are both foodies. So, and hi, Valve BTW. What's up? What's up with you, man? Good. Thanks a lot for dropping a comment. But so someone was when I got. Anyways, I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of these episodes as they came out because since I run TV Party Tonight, I got a lot of other shows I got to watch.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. So I have a tendency. I like to try to watch all of them at the same time.
Keep going. Just keep going.
Sorry. Another comment. Thank you, Andrew, for completely derailing my train of thought.
I tried to tell you keep going.
You made it worse.
Okay.
Okay, so someone was watching episodes of Only Murders in the Building the same time I started watching it. And when I got to this episode, it was already partway through it. And I just hit play without realizing this, and it immediately opens up on Steve Martin in the White Room with the fish. And I'm just staring at the screen going, okay. I have no context for this whatsoever. And I'm just like, okay, interesting. I thought they were going with the John Lennon thing at first.
Yeah.
John Lennon's famous White Room. But yeah, we talk about when actors essentially just kind of, well, they white out. They get so nervous and so lost that they don't know what they're doing. They are just, they blue screen. Their brain blue screens. And I love it because it cuts to, Martin screws up. Steve Martin screws up. And we cut to him in the White Room, just doing his thing. And then it cuts back, and he's clearly done something otherworldly.
I think they cut back to him. He's in he's naked in the bassinet, and the one guy's like, I have to go call my mother or something like that.
No,
and,
my therapist. I need to go call my.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the guy who's playing the musician who's playing the piano for them, and it's just like, he's a Christian, for God's sake.
It was a really funny comedic structure to that scene because you don't know what he did. You just see him in the White Room, and then you cut to everybody, and they're all mortified. And then it's I don't know how much of the show is written. I don't know how much of it is ad-libbed, but I can definitely see them just having let's do a take where we don't give you any lines, but kind of just think about what horrible things he may have done on that stage and just react to it. Because Martin Short says some funny shit. He's just I've never heard a string of obscenities, and then he name drop something. Yeah. But it was really funny to me. I'm not entirely certain we needed to see it 2 or 3 more times. It was a funny gag the first time, and then the second time it's
things come in threes. Rule of comedy,
I suppose. And then they do it again, and I'm like, okay, we got it.
And at least that time he kept his pants on.
Yes.
And he puts, because that's exactly what I said before. He says, well, at least he didn't get naked this time.
I don't know. I'm not going to complain too much about it because it's a very minor thing. It was just one of those where I felt like it almost seems too cute by half, with the writers just we have a really funny thing, and they shoot it, and Steve Martin's so funny about it, and the reactions are getting are funny, and it's you have lightning in a bottle in that one scene, and then they just keep doing it to try to recreate that that dynamic scene, and it's like, it's less funny every time you do this, guys. And eventually they stopped, but the actual Patter song is really well done, and like all the talent in the world of Steve Martin, he actually had to do the song.
Patter songs are not easy. They're really, I'm tone deaf and can't sing to save my life, but yeah, even I know, Patter songs are a nightmare.
Oh my god! So
right.
I can enunciate and speak clearly, but if I speak, anyone who's heard my podcast before, especially if I'm sick, if I start to speak fast, I will start slurring words, and it'll won't I'll mispronounce stuff. It'll sound really bad. That's the other side of it. I also have become very fond of doing karaoke, as anyone has been on my TikTok can see. Anyway, and I have to pick slower songs, because if I pick anything that has any kind of real fast rhythm to it, I will it'll just sound like mushmouth. I'll sound like a character from Fat Albert.
Note to self: don't ask Mark to sing Lin-Manuel Miranda music.
No. I was not in the Capitol. What is it? The line? Something about I was in the Capitol when they did it, or I can't remember the stupid song that I was going to make a joke out of. Anyway, moving on.
No, I want to be in the room when it happened.
Yeah, I was not in the room when it happened. Nailed it.
Your Tony's in the mail.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. And I guess part of that is also just sort of fun that we never really get an idea of what's going on with this musical. It just seems so surreal. The opening number is Crab People.
Actually, I want to talk about that for a minute, because I really enjoyed the conversation that Martin Short has with the stage reviewer, and she says to the critic, yes, I lose words. So the critic says to him, like, I was going to write a pan, like, but it's not that it's so much bad. It's just, it's not you. And it did speak to Martin Short's character feeling like, this is my big moment. I don't want to mess it up by being too me, because I feel like if I'm too much for people, I get rejected. So instead, I'm going to create this other thing. And it's a little bit of me, but it's more what I think people want from me. And her reaction to him is, that's not what we want. Whether it's really, really bad or really, really awesome, what we want is the authentic you. We want the authentic Oliver. And so then he kind of recreates Death Rattle into Death Razzle Dazzle. And I very much identified with that. This idea of whether you hit or you miss, be you, be the best you that you can be. And either people are going to get it or they're not, but at least you were true to yourself. That rang very true to me, and it was one of my favorite things about this season, was his kind of journey into, I'm gonna put my all into this, and I'm gonna, and yeah, Crab People, and the Patter song, and just I'm gonna make this as ridiculous as it is, because that's me, that's who I am, that's what I like, and that's what I've talked about this before. The best thing about doing what I do vis-a-vis this podcast is when I can share my passion with people and they can share their passion with me, and we can be passionate about stuff together. And you never know what's going to hit. You never know. Like when I throw something up on TikTok, I never know from one day to the next if this is going to be awesome or it's going to get like 10 views. I never know if I'm going to get like a bunch of likes or I'm going to get a bunch of comments. Please put your shirt on, fat ass. I don't know. I never know how it's going to go. But I think that's the fun of it, is like, let me just put myself out there. And good, bad, or indifferent, we'll see what happens, but at least I lived. And that's very much Oliver's character this season.
Yeah, I mean, you understand him wanting to start Restraint because, this is a director who is most famously known for trying to do a Broadway version of Splash, with the mermen jumping onto the stage into water that was not deep enough.
Listen,
which they reference again in this season.
Sometimes you go for it and you hit a home run. Sometimes you go for it and you hit the umpire. I mean, you gotta live.
Go for it and you hit the stage.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I like that they keep this musical so surreal but hidden. Essentially, we know 4 of the musical numbers,
right?
But we know through them what kind of the plot is, but at the same time we don't. We don't know. I
have no idea what Death Rattle Dazzle is about.
I have no idea how they assume one of 3 infants is the killer.
I mean, if Maggie Simpson can kill somebody, can shoot Mr. Burns, anyone can. But
Very true.
it's very Reservoir Dogs-ish. You know a lot about this musical by the end of it, but you never actually see the musical in its entirety.
Yeah. And that's part of the fun is just sitting there going, it's like, because part of you is just like, this seems so bizarre, kind of stupid, but I want to know how we got from point A to point B.
Yeah. I know one of the things that you texted me about, which before we run out of time, I did want to make sure that we addressed, because it was more of a concern with you than it was for me. Doing these shows with Robert's always like, I figured out who it was, and by the time the credits were done rolling and the opening credits, like, all right, Robert, like,
of course he does.
You're a genius. Some of us mortals, don't try to take the fun out of the thing we're watching before the end of it. And so for me, watching the biggest thing about a murder mystery is the whodunit. That's sort of the centerpiece. At any given time, the suspects are Meryl Streep, the guy who plays Dickie, and I think they look at a few other people, but I think the show itself kind of shines very much a light on especially Meryl Streep and Dickie through most of it. And you're led to believe as the audience member, like, it could be either one of them. And that's kind of the mystery that keeps it going. Like, well, who really was it? Especially at the end where they're going to arrest Dickie, and Meryl Streep's like, it was me, I did it. But then there's, spoilers, there's a giant misdirection, and it was actually the producer and her son. Because there's 2 murders. There was one that's the one that fails, and then and then there's the push down the elevator shaft. And up until the very, very last moment, you think, one of my favorite scenes, talk about like what are our favorite moments. One of my favorite scenes of this is when the 3 of them, very proud of themselves, have solved the mystery. It's the producer who poisoned him. And they presume that when she didn't get the job done the first time, she pushed him down the elevator shaft, which is it's a pretty safe assumption. And
especially since they have they finally have the handkerchief,
right?
That's been their big clue, their MacGuffin this whole time,
right?
And it has her shade of lipstick on it,
right? Which
we see multiple times, her just constantly reapplying.
Yeah. So they go to corner her, and she and the room is filled with the air, with the tension of them accusing this person, and you as the audience member are expected to think she'll totally deny it, or she'll be like, like a Scooby-Doo ending. Oh, and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling
podcasters.
Right. And instead she's like, and this is so funny, like the great thing about this show is the little lines of dialogue, the little quips here and there. So she kind of like turns to her left. She's like, why is he pretending to be a coat rack? And she's talking to the documentarian. he's got and so she just grabs the boom in a very Mark Radulich moment, just grabs the boom mic, and she's like, so I did it, and here's why. And you can kind of see Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, and Martin Short like just turn pale, but not like in shock and horror. And like, damn it, the fun of this is red-handed.
They had all these note cards. They had this whole scene planned out like they did with the last season, where they were going to do this big intricate trap, and it's just like, well, that was a waste of nothing.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see Selena Gomez just throw the cards in the air, like, well, fuck it, But like her explanation was also sound. It was like, I got a copy of the review,
the critics' review.
Right. Paul Rudd was the wink link in all of this, and I don't want my son to fail. When the show in and of itself is about family and about protecting, you as a parent looking out for your kids and not wanting them to fall flat on their face, there's where the depth lies in this show, because there's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of really funny stuff, but the writing is pretty on point. But what is the show really about? And it's about people who love each other and want to protect each other and will sometimes go that extra mile, maybe a deadly extra mile, to make sure that, their loved ones succeed. And that's pretty good. That's something I can key into and relate to.
I did like the mystery aspect. I texted you and I was like, so am I getting better at this, or was this one just easier? Because I'm not going to play like I figured it out early, but I knew it wasn't going to be Dickie or Loretta, solely on the grounds that this show is really good in misdirection. The obvious suspect is never the guilty party.
How boring would it be if by episode 4 you knew who the killer was?
Yeah, this show excels at red herrings and misdirection, and that's part of what makes it so much fun. No, I had my finger on Donna in the episode where we catch her. She's in the bathroom with Loretta, And this
Yeah.
is where she's sick. And again, I think it's meant to imply that she's just got a stomach bug or opening night jitters, but I had a feeling they were building something up. And yes, she has cancer. And she talks about how it's like there's nothing we wouldn't do for our child. And a light just kind of went off in my head. I'm like, oh shit, I bet it's her. But the moment I knew it is we have a really good episode where our three podcasters do a walkthrough
Mm-hmm.
of opening night. And they got the dry erase board. That's the word I was looking for. I was trying to say whiteboard and dry erase board at the same time, and I was coming up with nothing. And we see all of the characters with our podcasters inserting themselves into it. And I love episodes like this. They had something like this in last season where Oliver did a 1970s murder mystery game.
Yeah.
With everyone was dressed in costume. And this kind of gave me similar callbacks, but I like it. I like it when they can kind of play around with like, what is their reality right now?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. But the minute that Cliff, Donna's son, offered a cookie to Ben, that's when I got it. It was just like, I know. It's like that was the key. It's like the minute I saw the cookie, I knew what had happened.
Which goes to that scene where, they kept going to Paul Rudd talking to an unnamed person. And it's like, you're bad for me. I want you so badly, but you'll ruin my career. You're like, ooh, who's he talking to? Is it a lover? Is it and it's a fucking cookie? Like, you got me there, writers of Only Murders in the Building.
It was funny. And the fact that he's the one who wrote that thing on his mirror. Because that was a good misdirection, especially since we see it does match Loretta's handwriting.
So
turns out Ben and Loretta just have similar handwriting.
Our friend, I don't know if he's still watching, but our friend Andrew Graham chimed in earlier. Clearly, he watched the show. Big fan of what we do here. Has been on many of our podcasts. Also designed the Radulich and Broadcasting bingo card, which I would instruct everyone to get out now because I'm about to bring up the center square. When watching The Wire, a lot of things. Shut up, Alexis. A lot of things. Listen, I haven't had.
I can't say anything. Okay, I already filled up another square with Cleo barking.
You really did. When people watch The Wire, a lot of stuff gets introduced. There's a lot of seemingly disparate bits of dialogue or exposition, whatever, details. And you're like, how does all of this come together? Mm-hmm. This seems like it's all over the fucking place. And then by the time we get to this... by the time we get to the season finale, everything makes sense. And Lester, and I forget what season it is, what episode, but at some point, it might have been season 3, Lester says, all the pieces matter. Which is funny because that kind of became the tagline for The Wire, all the pieces matter.
It's a good line.
So when you look back at from episode 1 to episode 10 or whatever, how many episodes there are in a season of The Wire, you're like, oh, that's the relevance of that. That's the importance of that. That's why that okay, everything coalesces. And it's like putting together this, 1,000-piece puzzle, and you have no idea what it, like you don't have a picture of it. You don't really know what you're putting together, but you just kind of keep putting the pieces in. You keep putting the pieces in, and suddenly you take a step back and you go, oh my God, now I see the picture. That's very much this show. It's 10 episodes of a lot of wildly disparate details. And then when you take a step back and you finally see the picture, you're like, oh, I get it now. Okay. That's why that was important. That's why that happened. I talk about with television writing, one of the things that really bothers me, some of the reasons why I don't do certain television shows, Marvel and Star Wars, is the throwaway writing stuff that's just, there's so much fat in these shows.
Oh, yeah.
And it bothers the shit out of me. Like, I like my television to be lean. Like me. And I roll harder. I didn't hear you.
I think they heard my eye roll in China.
Maybe. I like my shows to be lean. I don't like there to be a lot of throwaway stuff. I like I like everything to have a purpose. And even if I don't understand what it is I'm watching in that moment, I'll come back to it later and go, oh, that totally makes sense now. Like, that's good writing. That's good television. And this show really, that's one of the things it excels at.
Definitely. So there are a couple of other moments I want to talk about. I think the White Room was one of my favorites, but the other one I absolutely adored was Matthew Broderick's cameo.
Mel Brooks.
That was great.
Sorry, Mel, did you have a problem with Matthew? Did you give him creative input? Yeah. Well, then you're fucked. Like that, in only the way a 90 million year old Jewish Mel Brooks can say that line. Well, then you're fucked. It's so good.
Zachary Strobel and I openly said, we said this on the History of the World Part 2 review. We said, it's like, Mel Brooks cannot die. When the end of the world happens, the world belongs to Keith Richards, Mel Brooks, and the cockroaches.
It's fair. No, Mel Brooks is timeless.
That scene also killed me though, because Oliver makes it says like, it's like, so when you were doing the producers, which I never got a chance to see, he's like, you never saw it. That's actually extra funny because Martin Short played Leo Bloom in the LA version of the producers with Jason Alexander.
Oh, that's funny.
I know. It's like, how awesome would it have been to see those two on stage together? That is just like, it's one of those things that...
Sorry, Matthew Broderick, I really go above and beyond to create a character. In War Games, I taught myself to code. That's funny on many levels. Like, especially if you were a kid who saw War Games at that time, like, that's a hilarious line. And you wouldn't think it to hear it like, oh, it's kind of a straightforward, like, yeah, it's amusing. But, like, no, you have to understand. You have to have been a kid in the 80s and seen War Games for that to be funny.
The fact that he's getting so into the role, he's trying to think, it's like, so what way would a Nova Scotian constable point? Their hands would be lower. And let me
tell you, we talk a lot about horror on this network, against my will. And, I'll tell you, there's nothing more horrifying than being taken hostage by somebody who has no impulse or self-control, the way that scene plays out between Matthew Broderick and Martin Short. Because Martin Short can't leave. He has to be there.
It's his apartment.
Right. And Matthew Broderick won't stop. Because I'll tell you, I've been where Martin Short has been, where I'm with somebody and I'm like, anything for this conversation to be over. Anything for you to fucking get out of my face. And I can't say that for whatever the reasons are. Maybe it's a boss. Maybe it's an in-law. Who knows? And I'm like, please let a meteor hit this fucking house. Anything. Get me out of this conversation. And the person's just like, no, utterly oblivious to the agony that you're in. I have been in conversations that have felt like a saw trap. And
you're not the only one. You have any idea how many times I'm working an event and I have someone who comes up and they want to talk about a certain fandom that I'm selling, and they just want to keep talking and talking. I'm like, this stopped being interesting 2 hours ago.
Look, I have not more than once this year been accused of being mildly autistic, and maybe that's it. I don't know, but functionally mildly autistic. But I have definitely been where Martin Short has been, where you're just like, if he goes on another minute about how might a Nova Scotian cop run, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna throw myself right out the fucking window. And that is one of the funniest things in that scene.
And then, of course, you have Steve Martin coming in and saying the classic line from Ferris Bueller, "You're still here? It's over. Go home." I loved that.
Yes. The meta references in this are cute.
They are very cute. They did up the meta references a lot in this season, but you know what? It works. It works because we have such an all-star cast who have done so much and had so many variety roles.
It works because it's not a Wayans brother level humor where it's the pie in the horse's ass approach to comedy, where it's so blunt and so in your face. It's like it's not even funny anymore. I was listening to you and Zach. I was listening to the TikTok that you sent me for History of the World Part 2, and Zach was saying, like, you can kind of get away with stupid humor because it's so over the top dumb that you still laugh at it. But I wouldn't necessarily also call that good writing either. Good writing is subtle. Good writing is when the joke is subtle and you laugh hard, as opposed to the joke is overly blunt and you kind of go, Yeah. And that is the difference between because I wasn't on that review, and if I was, you'd have hated me. But But
No,
I
you
remember,
guys would have just made 10 times more Jew jokes.
maybe. But that I remember watching History of the World Part 1 and being like, this was written for morons. My kids are loving this, but they're 9 and 12, and they're not stupid, but they're young.
Did your son still sing the Inquisition song?
He seems to have moved past that. That was funny for a few weeks. But like all things, we move on. But yeah, like I remember like this was written at like a third grade level. So of course the third graders really enjoying it, but like as an adult, who look, I like a pie in the horse's ass as much as any man, but at some point I'm like, can we evolve here? Can we maybe a higher level of comedy? And by comparison, here you have maybe you get the joke, maybe you didn't, but the writers are not concerned with that. They thought it was funny. They'll know somebody will get it. Good enough. And I'm like, that's what I want. Just put it out there. Maybe someone catches the ball, maybe they don't. But let's move on. Let's move on to the next thing. And as opposed to, a sort of soft pitch that anyone can catch. It's like, this isn't really funny to me.
Well, we're coming up on an hour here, so let's go ahead and talk about, because we can't have a season of Only Murders in the Building without revealing our victim and our case for the next season. The show has been renewed for season 4, as if there was any doubt. And now they've killed off Jane Lynch.
Yes. Yeah,
I like Jane Lynch. Jane Lynch just makes nearly everything better. She's hilarious.
If you say so.
But I think she is hilarious. I'm not a Glee fan, okay?
It's not that I don't like Jane Lynch. I'm sure if I saw her, I'm sure there's something I would see her and be like, you're great. She kind of comes from that, oh gosh, Elf. What the hell's his name? The comedian. He was an elf.
Oh, that narrows it down.
Oh my god, the tall comedian who screams a lot. He was an elf. He was in Talladega Nights. Talladega Nights. He was in Step Brothers.
Will Ferrell?
That's the one. Jesus Christ. She kind of comes from that Will Ferrell school of comedy of, if I'm just loud and obnoxious in front of the camera, that's funny enough. And yes, Will Ferrell is perfectly capable of doing dramatic roles. I've seen him do it. I've defended it. But what everyone knows about him, what everyone knows about Will Ferrell, what everyone loves about Will Ferrell is the way he plays Buddy the Elf. Just
the childlike innocence that he can pull off in that,
which makes me fucking hate him. But I am an outlier, admittedly.
You don't watch Elf you don't watch Elf in December? Not
if I can help it. I Emmett Otter for life. I don't know why I did the Wu-Tang sign there, but
well, now just
Emmett Otter, baby.
There you go. Fine. Krampus for life,
if you say so. Jane Lynch, very much from that same school of comedy of, I'm not doing anything particularly witty. I'm not doing anything cutting or biting or satirical. However, I am being a big obnoxious clown, and I'm loud and I'm tall, and and if I do that enough times, people will think it's funny because we don't think too hard about these things. I'm like, doesn't really do anything for me.
Like I said, I've seen her in a handful of things I thought she was genuinely funny, and I love her doing voiceover work in Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah,
I mean, that character was originally supposed to be a man, and then they brought in Jane Lynch for an audition. They're just like, you know what? No, we're rewriting the character because we're going to make this female for Jane Lynch.
Yeah,
and it worked.
Yeah, she worked well for that character in that movie, yes.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, she's shown up a couple of times in the series as she's a stunt woman who's she's Steve Martin's stunt actor, which I thought was funny as hell.
Reminds me of the Spaceballs bit where they dive through the door.
Yeah, it's like, these are not them. You've captured their
stunt doubles. And the one who is supposed to be Daphne Zuniga is just a short man with like a beard or whatever it was. Like, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. So again, drawing from what we can, it's pretty clear that bullet that she took was meant for Charles, for Steve Martin. She was dressed just like him, wearing the hat, which I'm starting to wonder if that was just her favorite thing to do with him, because she always showed up dressed exactly like him.
I think, it was a way to stay connected to him.
Mm-hmm.
They never really got into that character very much, so I don't want to start projecting and surmising, but it very
No, but
much
she
could have
does.
been like, I'm very connected to you, but I don't know how else to connect to you, but to be your doppelganger.
She does connect to him a lot more in the season. We have a really sweet episode. We have Andrea Martin as Charles's girlfriend, a longtime makeup artist. He
Mhm.
finally gets the balls to ask her out. She moves in way too quickly with her 62 fish.
Because 63 would have been way too many.
Absolutely. I can't really talk about the obscenity with pets, okay? I have my 2 dogs and they cameo on this show a lot.
There's a
Whether
lot
I
of
want them
people
to or not.
It's a lot of people whose company I enjoy, so I'm not going to give my opinion on you people and your fucking pets.
But yeah, and we have a really great scene where Saz comes in and kind of helps Charles figure out why he's having so much trouble dealing with it, because he accidentally proposes to Joy when he goes into the White Room.
Right.
Which is great, but yeah, it's a really sweet scene where she kind of helps him break down those walls and figure out exactly why he's having these troubles.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she is shot going up into Charles's apartment to get a bottle of wine. Again, she's dressed just like him, wearing the hat, so it's pretty clear that was an assassination attempt on him.
Yeah.
And the last thing we see is her dipping her hand in her own blood, and it looks like she's writing a dying message.
Yeah. So we'll say,
I was say right before she dies, she does tell Charles, "Hey, there's something I need to talk to you about, something sensitive."
right.
But we don't know what.
So we'll see. I mean, and that's the other thing. Like you say, oh, he was going to go up there. She's dressed like him. Clearly, that bullet was meant for him, but she's the one in peril. So maybe it was meant for her. And that's part of the mystery. You know, we never talked about Selena Gomez, by the way.
That's true. But well, I don't want to say she has the smallest arc of the characters, because she does have her arc. She's officially getting kicked out of the Arconia. She has been staying there rent-free because it's her aunt's place, and her aunt has finally sold it now that she's got the stupid place all cleaned up.
Right.
So the season does start out with her saying, "Guys, I have to leave the Arconia," but she does move out. She's crashing with Theo, who I'm glad came back. I like Theo's character. I really like him.
The interactions between her and Theo are really nice. I enjoyed their scenes together.
And I like that she's learning sign.
Yes.
So she can talk to him. That's just a very sweet moment. Mabel has always been so standoffish. And it's nice to see her finally willing to open up to someone and have a friend.
Yeah, it was nice to see her act like a human as opposed to a plank of wood.
Very true. And we have her romantic angle with Taubert.
Oh my god. I can't tell you how many times in this they were sort of like half pointing the light on him as the killer. Because there was a couple of times where it was just like, ooh, it could be him. And I was like, please don't do this again. Please don't do another sleeping with the enemy.
Absolutely. It worked with, what was her name? Jan in the first season. But no, we don't want, again, the similar thing with Loretta. Right. It's like, we don't want, as you put it, the sleeping with the enemy trope. We're done with that.
We did this once. It was funny the first time.
Mm-hmm. Again, classic misdirection. And I do love how much they make fun of his. I just love that even he makes fun of his name. It's just like Taubert, like Robert, but with a T. My mother was insane. I love how he just says it so.
I enjoyed that actor. He gave good, solid, stable performance. Like it's nothing like over the top, but it kind of reminded me of like Stan Sebastian and Fresh, at least the first 45 minutes of it. Where it's like he's just a good dude. And there was no. I was actually thinking about what do you call it? High Fidelity, because High Fidelity is another one that's like chock full of just normal dude. And I don't know. I don't watch a lot of TV like this, so when I see it, it jumps out at me. But somebody else who watches this sort of thing, like, yeah, this is not that. This is not that unordinary of a thing. But modern, normal, decent guy. And because I guess I'm so used to watching stuff that's outside of the norm, when I see a guy, he's like, yeah, he's not toxic. He's not an animal. He's not mentally, he's not mentally disabled. He's not angry. He's just It is amazing to me that I'm now going to make this statement, but I have to make it. It is amazing that they could just write a normal, decent male guy character in the year of our Lord 2023, and an actor perfectly giving a perfectly serviceable performance as nice normal man. Why is that weirdly odd to me?
I liked him as well. It's funny because apparently he was on Grey's Anatomy, and that's where a lot of the fans recognize him from.
Okay,
I recognize him from Cabin in the Woods, one of my favorite horror
I've
movies.
watched none of those. Not a single episode of Grey's Anatomy or Cabin in the Woods.
He plays one of the 5 sacrifices in Cabin in
Ooh.
the Woods.
Okay,
Yeah, no, it's a fun character.
I believe you.
But yeah, no, I really liked it. I think I kind of also liked that he had all this tech equipment that he was willing to loan Mabel and really help her with her podcast. And she's like, I just want to record on my phone. You know, that was.
I have been there.
Yeah, I have too.
I'm like, hey, I did all of these things for you. It's like, I'm just gonna use, two cups and a Dixie string, 2 Dixie cups and a string. It's like,
and that
me.
moment where Theo passes the note says, "I don't get her either."
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Once again, I've also been there. Woman is fickle.
You've been on all 3 sides of that.
I really have. I have a highly relatable show. Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah. So again, Mabel has kind of come to grasp that she just turned 30. Her character just character turns 30 on the show. They give her a little bowl of dip with the candle in it. That was so cute. But she's just kind of been like, I don't have my life figured out. She's like, I don't have a job. I technically don't have a place to live. I don't know what I want to do for my career because the podcast isn't paying the bills. And that is also very relatable.
Yeah, I wonder how many young people watch this show and go, that's me, I'm Mabel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'm 39 and I have my career, but even I'm sometimes sitting there going, it's like, so is this what I'm doing with the rest of my life? I think we all
Scrabble tile fucking earrings until I'm 70.
And then one day when I'm in the retirement home and one of the fellow retirees suggests a game of Scrabble, something finally snaps in my brain, and then the men in the white coats come because I'm holed up in the bathroom with a sledgehammer.
Listen, I'm going to be 50 in 3 short years, and I also have a profession and a career and, and a graduate degree and all of that. And you don't think I have moments of, what am I going to do with the next 20 years of my life? Is this what I'm going to do? Am I going to talk to inmates for 20 years? Is there nothing else for me out there? Like, I think a lot of young people could look at Mabel, but I think anyone can also sit back and kind of question, like, what am I supposed to be doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this fulfilling, or, does this pay the bills and I should be doing something else? I mean, people ask all the time, like, why do you do the podcast? And I'm like, well, it's one of the few things I'm passionate about in this world. It's gives me an opportunity to talk to people about things that I enjoy, not when I'm in the middle of doing something else. Because that's another one of my favorite things. Go back to the Martin Short thing. I get approached all the time, like, oh, have you watched this show? Have you watched that show? And I'm like, I'm in the middle of working, or like I'm working out, or, I'm doing something. I'm always busy, as anyone who knows me knows intimately. I am constantly on the move. And it's like, stop. Have you watched Ahsoka yet? Fuck, leave me alone. Oh my God. I would jump out a window. But here I have a dedicated block of time to talk about the things that I enjoy, or the things that you enjoy that you said I should watch too. Like, it was your idea to watch the Dahmer show last year. I wouldn't have watched it of my own volition, but you're like, I love it when you guys come to me and you're like, hey, Mark, I'm really excited about this show. You should watch it too. We should talk about it together. And I go, okay. So going back to the point, I think it's perfectly okay and perfectly relatable for anyone of any age to sort of look at the life and go, am I happy? Am I doing what I love? Is there something else I should be doing? And
exactly.
That's a lot of what's going on with Mabel in this season.
Fact is that we all think that one day we're just going to wake up and everything is figured out. And we realize we're on the right course for our rest of our lives. And we've married the perfect person and we have the perfect kids. And it's like, we think we have,
I wouldn't know what that's like.
We think we have finally nestled in to the universe's plan for us. Mm-hmm. And that is what I like to call grade A bullshit. I don't think we ever really feel like we've got it figured out. And and that really does bring us back to Mabel's character. I especially relate to that. I remember before I got into making jewelry, because I was having the hardest time figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, because everything that I wanted to do with my life wasn't working out.
Right. Yeah, I get
wanted
that.
to Yeah, it's like I wanted to continue my skills with graphic design and photography, which are still two of my most passionate hobbies.
Mhm.
And I wasn't getting any work, and it just was falling apart. I'm like, well, they say find what you want to do. Well, I know what I want to do, but it's not working. Why is what I want to do not working out as what I should be doing?
Do you know what it's like to have been podcasting since the invention of the podcast, and to see other people, like, for whatever reasons, catch fire and get listeners and interactions and thousands of views on YouTube, and here we are toiling in obscurity, and and like sort of transition to just focusing on TikTok, because at least I get more interaction there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been passionate about this. I've been passionate about talk radio since the terrorist attack on 9/11. Like, I started listening to talk radio then, because I get asked this all the time, like, what got you into podcasting? 9/11, actually. I started listening to talk radio, like talk news, and then that transitioned into talk radio, and I just fell in love with the medium. And then a few short years later, that was 2001. 2006, I'm scrolling through something with Blogger, and I see the advertisement for Blog Talk Radio, and I'm like, Blog Talk Radio, I love talk radio. And I've been doing it for almost 20 years. And, we certainly had our ups and downs about it, but I wouldn't keep doing it if I wasn't passionate about it. Because it certainly don't pay the bills, as you well know.
As I remind our listeners every time I host a show and I have to do my own plugs.
Going to put you on the full screen.
But yes, I think all of our characters, again, this was a really good season. This was, in my opinion, the best season so far.
Yeah, I definitely like the fact that they've moved beyond the Arconia. I like the fact that they focused on like this big musical that Oliver was doing, and I like that they've expanded the cast a little bit. That they keep bringing people back from previous seasons. I like the fact that they're now known in law enforcement. They're like the three pains in the asses, but they're always right. We always get the wrong person, and we kind of have to listen to them. I was watching Dumb Money not that long ago, and the postscript to Dumb Money is they ignored the people from Reddit to their peril, and it cost billions and billions of dollars, and government intervention had to stop it. So now people who deal in investments will scour Reddit and the internet to see like what's the underground buzz, because as we all know, the future is in the underground. And I think that's pretty brilliant. So I like the fact that the show kind of deals with that. It's like, we can't ignore the hoi polloi. They tend to be right. And it's great. I think that's a great little admission in the show.
Yeah. I will say, I think the only thing I was a little disappointed in is not that I'm upset that we got our Broadway loving cop back, because she's such a great character, but they introduced at the start of the new season a new cop a new detective who's taking over it, because the Broadway loving one is supposedly like put in for a transfer or something.
Yeah.
Not surprising. She's a new mother, and she's just probably wanted something a little more easygoing. And I love it. It's like, I was watching over a playground, and now I'm back here.
Yes.
But he only shows up for 2 episodes. I thought we were going to get more interactions with him, with our crew. And it's like, well, you introduce this new detective and it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Yeah. But again, we also have a lot of other new characters, a lot of other plot points. I get that not everything is going to get a lot of screen time. That is a nitpick.
The last thing I was going to mention, and then if you want, we can wrap. When did Steve Martin turn into Batman? Why can't he ever find love? Why is it he has to be perpetually alone in this fucking series? Like, this whole thing that he goes through with Joy, like, I understood the purpose of it in the narrative, and I can definitely see it as sort of a thing with this character. But it almost feels like the writers, again, much like Batman, because I had this is me still yelling about Tom, whatever his name is, Batman's the wedding with him in Catwoman.
Oh yeah.
Must we rest firmly on this idea of our lead men must always be alone? They cannot find love. Like, if we find love, that's it. That's all we can do with them. The character's dead. Like, no, it isn't. Write better. Be more creative. And there's like a concept that like Steve Martin like just has this admission to himself, like, oh, I guess I'll just never find love. I'll always be alone. Why? Why are you writing him this way? It really bothered me.
That actually does lead to one thing I thought they were going for was that they were going to bring up for season 4. Loretta and Dickie are on their way out to LA. She has made a splash with her Broadway debut, and now they want her in a TV role. And Taubert is also heading out to LA. He said he's got some work now on an indie film. And Mabel and Oliver say, well, we've got to stay in New York for a bit, but we'll come out and visit. I thought they were going to set up for the 3 of them were going to go to LA, and only Murders in the Building was going to now be in a different city.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I thought, like, okay, after 3 seasons of this, we're going to have a change of scenery, and, like, I was all for it. Like, I would have been okay with them. I think a new city, but it's almost as if, like, the writer's like, no, we can't leave the Arconia. Okay. Like, I guess if that's one of you think is the pillars of this show, kind of, because, you know, you've got the landlord or whatever her role is. She has some really funny one-liners, too.
The kleptomaniac.
Yeah. Her interaction with Steve Martin in the diner about, you know, friendship and don't hang on to resentment and hatred. It may be too late to tell your friends you love them. That hit me hard. Because she has a couple of other really funny, like, got her and Matthew Broderick fucking, you know, Waldorf and Statlering the play. That's great. Like them fucking
that was
heckling always so good. She has a lot of really funny lines, but I guess if you move them to Los Angeles, you don't have this iconic building. You don't have those characters. You have to kind of create new stuff out of whole cloth. Maybe they don't want to do that.
Possibly. Again, I just thought it would have been a nice twist for the next season. Something a little bit different.
I don't disagree. I'm just guessing as to why they didn't.
Mm-hmm. And also because I think we're in agreement that we want Loretta and Taubert to continue to be on the show.
Sure. All right. I think that dog is telling us to end the show.
I think they are. All right. Yes. Only Murders in the Building. Season 3 is on Hulu. Go check it out. It has been renewed for season 4, so we'll find out who killed Jane Lynch probably sometime next year. Again, let's see if we can now review it on October 19th, just like we did last.
I'm gonna go put it on the calendar right now.
Like, I know you're not joking.
Saturday? What the fuck? Actually, now I'm curious. Don't stop the podcast. Keep going. But you know what? It's on a fucking Saturday. God damn it.
Oh yeah, that's right. 2024 is a leap year, so we're gonna bump an extra day.
There you go.
All right. Okay, Mark, why don't you go ahead and give us a couple of plugs while I go tell Eddie to shut up.
All right. Monday, myself and Robert and Dorian reviewed The Exorcist Believer. We had a really fun discussion. Good show. Yesterday, I put up the movies that don't suck and some that do. They did VHS 85 and I don't remember what the other one was. This weekend, we've got an old source material extra alternative commentary that we did. The X-Men arcade playthrough. It's me, Ronnie, Robert, and Jesse. We had a good time. Yeah, back when we had fun on this network, we would watch playthroughs and comment on them and just have fun. So I put up the audio for that. That'll be up Friday. That's from the Blog Talk Radio era. Saturday, No More Everyone Loves the Bad Guys. Those are all up now in the archives for your listening pleasure. So we're digging into some of the other stuff that never made this feed. This is the alternative commentary that we did for Godzilla in 1998. That had Alexis on it, Jesse, and my kids. That was fun. That was from a couple years ago. Sunday is Metal Hammer of Doom Sundays. We'll be re-airing our 2015 review of High on Fire, Luminiferous. And then Monday, there's a source material. It's me and Jesse starting up a new trilogy. This is Godzilla versus Power. This is crossovers. We did 3 crossover books. This is the first one, Godzilla versus the Power Rangers. That's a fun book. And then in the evening time, myself and Robert Winfrey will spend 12 hours discussing Killers of the Flower Room because that's how long that movie is. Myself and David Wright. David's been along a lot of shows this month.
David's come my go-to guy. He and I, when I'll talk about my plugs, but yeah, he is sort of become my right-hand man this month.
Yeah, he's all over the network, man. He's become a designated hitter. We're gonna be doing Strange New World season 2. Thursday, Alexis, we'll talk about this more at length, but she'll be doing a TV party for Fall of the House of Usher, the Netflix show. I'm sure there'll be another movies that don't suck and some that do. And then Saturday, we've got 2 drops for you. One is Jesse's Kung Fury alternative commentary that he did a little ways back. But also, Tyson Fury is fighting Francis Ngannou. Hey, it's not just Jake Paul that does freak show fights. So myself and Robert Winfrey will be doing a live reaction commentary for Fury versus Ngannou Saturday, late in the afternoon, early evening. That's what I got going on here. I am Mark Radulich on Twitter. I'm also Mark or X. I'm also, more importantly, I am Mark. Who am I? I'm Mark Radulich on TikTok. I put up concert.
How's that patter song going, Mr. Radulich?
Which of the epic fuck you did it? So on my TikTok is concert footage. I go to see like a show a week, and I put up one song, about a minute or so of one song at a time. Those are up there. I do clips of this show. I will be cutting out something today and actually throwing it up. I do clips of Alexis' shows that she does on her own. Those go up there too. But most importantly, the thing that I want to promote on my TikTok is my naked karaoke. That's right. All of this you can see with your bare eyes. Your naked eyes can see my naked upper body because I do wear pants. And you can hear me singing The Gambler by Kenny Rogers or Used to Love Her by Guns N' Roses. Funniest reaction I ever got from that song because I don't think anyone knew it. It's been years since, people might not know Used to Love Her by Guns N' Roses. And the line is, I used to love her, but I had to kill her. She's buried right in my backyard. And I literally got an audible gasp the last time I sang that song, which is pretty good. So yeah, check out my TikTok at Mark Radulich. And you can see also fun sing-alongs I do with my kids and other nutty stuff. And the best 10 minutes or so of any one clip from these podcasts. All right, now that I've vamped, go ahead, Alexis.
Sorry, I had to go get Eddie. He was outside sunbathing. It's a corgi thing. All right, so
Who's nuts for corgi butts? That's a blast.
My one shining moment on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, explaining to you guys what nuts about corgi butts means.
Yes, it's come to hear her talk about animation. Stay for the corgi butts.
Pretty much. So yes, myself, Robert Winfrey, and Jason Teasley, otherwise known as the Unholy Trinity of the Radulich Broadcasting Network, will be discussing Fall of the House of Usher next week. Mr. Dorian Price actually will be coming in, so it's the Unholy Trinity plus one. So we got that. See, now I can't talk either. It's contagious. But we just wrapped up shows discussing Ahsoka and the Netflix live action One Piece. Again, David Wright guested with me on both of those. He really has become my go-to guy for TV Party tonight. So thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, David, for doing that for me. Upcoming shows, I don't know if we've got these on the schedule or not, or if we do and I've just completely forgotten, but we will be taking a look at Loki season 2. We got Gen V, and they just dropped the trailer for the new Scott Pilgrim anime, which I am dying to review.
1 out of 2 of those we scheduled. We scheduled Gen V. We do not have Loki or Scott Pilgrim on the schedule yet.
All right. And also you got me discussing coming back for Damn You Hollywood at the end of the month to discuss the Five Nights at Freddy's film. I'm genuinely looking forward to that. I am hoping for as much camp as possible in that thing.
It's a loaded show. That is you, Dorian, Jason, and Robert. Oh my God, we're going to have 5 people on that show. Fucking kill me.
God.
So, somebody drop off. Maybe I'll drop off.
For the record, Dorian has requested the possibility of being included in the network chat.
Oh, yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. I warned him what happened to the last guy we brought into the network chat.
The last guy brought that on himself, and I'm not saying he was completely guilty. Yeah, everyone contributed to running him out of town, but he started it.
Not saying anything.
It's probably best.
All right. So, yes, you will be hearing from me again before too long. Really looking forward to the fall of House of Usher because Mr. Winfrey, Mr. Teasley, and I have made a habit of reviewing Mike Flanagan's
Hang on.
work
A,
as.
a certain somebody has already been on a podcast with Dorian and liked him just fine. I think Dorian's going to last longer than the last guy.
Okay. But we make a thing of reviewing Mike Flanagan's work. We previously looked at Midnight Mass and
Yes.
the Midnight Club. And of course, we always do something fun around Halloween. Last year, we reviewed Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which, in my opinion, was actually one of the best reviews the three of us have worked on. We had a blast discussing that. So I'm really hoping we're going to have some fun again with the fall of House of Usher. And now on to the plugs that pay my bills. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. As soon as we wrap this up, I am actually out the door to go do setup for Planet Anime. Those of you in the Kansas City area, you have no doubt heard of Planet Comic-Con, Kansas City's premier Comic-Con. Well, they are doing a little schism, and now we are going to have an anime show brought to us by the same crew. It is this weekend, October 20th through the 22nd. Looking forward to it. It's got some big name voice actor guests. From what I've seen, it's like most of the cast of Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, and Demon Slayer, among others. So, gonna have some fun with that. In the meantime, you can always find us on our shops on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. I am in the middle of getting some more items up on both shops. As soon as I find time to breathe. And as always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And yes, we are also on TikTok. I was up until 3:30 last night making a video for this new pair of SpongeBob themed earrings.
Yes, like and share and add to your favorites all of Alexis's TikToks, and then come to mine. And just do the ones of me doing naked karaoke.
All right. Am I hitting the end button?
I will hit buttons. I told you, I'm here to press your buttons.
You're always here to press my buttons.
Say
Right.
the words, monkey.
Be well, behave, be safe. Good night.